Testing one, two, three. Testing one, two, three. Hello, Bravehearts, Urbanites, and Coach Mad Hatters. And this is the addendum to the Mercury retrograde R&R remix and reminders that I posted a few hours ago. Inside that segment, I promised to present the Coach Mad Hatters horoscope for June and July. And I quickly allowed it to escape out of my mind. So here we are. And amazingly so, by doing that, a few more things unfolded. And so I'm going to spend a little time incorporating that into this moment. So as I have made mention before, or several times before, that usually when I am sitting here attempting to process my thoughts, I just mindlessly shuffle um, just to see if I can keep the energies around me flowing, um, for good, bad, or indifferent. Um, I will like to add into the mix of this particular conversation that good and bad are of subjective natures, and that what I may figure is a good thing, someone else may figure is a terribly bad thing. Speaking of which, I know that um, the TV series, or is it a yeah, it's a TV. No, is it a TV series? I don't know if it's a Netflix original series, but Vampire Diaries is a series of an acquired taste. One of the things that's going down in the last season of this series is the main characters meeting with the so-called devil, the siren. And she's at the point where she is has taken hold of one brother's mind and is given the third degree to another brother, the Salvatore brothers. And so she has taken over the so-called dark brother and is given the heroic brother, if you will, the good brother, the light worker brother, the third degree. And so she's in captivity at this moment, but she is speaking to Stefan through plated glass, and she's asking him to identify himself as either the good brother or the bad brother. Because, of course, when we are talking about self reflection, those that might see you as the good brother does not necessarily mean you yourself is going to take up that so called label. So she is asking him, how does he see himself? Quite clever uh, string of events inside this conversation that they are having. Because if you think of it metaphorically, it's almost as if Stefan is having a conversation with the devil to establish how he views himself, which will set in course a string of uh, consequential occurrences according to how he view himself. And so she's pretty much pressuring him to answer. Okay, Stefan, Who are you? Are you the good brother or the bad brother? When she's rolling out, all of the supporting evidence that would establish him as the good brother. And then in an instant, she's flipping it around and she's rolling down out all of the instances of his past that would easily depict him as the bad brother. And as the time that she is unraveling all of this, his back is to her. Remember, she's in captivity, so she's behind a glass. So she can see his back to her. And I don't think it's by mistake that at this particular juncture that the devil is showing up in as a feminine force. So she is maybe you don't know, so let me just elaborate just a little bit. There are certain instances where inside of a great debate or a passionate conversation or even an argument full of conflict and confrontation, there is these pockets of passionate roll off where the words are coming back to back to back to back. And sometimes it forces out reactions from whoever these words are being fired at. And so I think she was expecting for Stefan to turn around in haste and like just blurt out something. But to the contrary, he actually turned around, looked her dead in her eyes, and quite calmly said, I'm both. I'm both. And I think that's where we are right now, especially in terms of self reflection, self analysis, the reflection of others, um, in conjunction with the analysis of them versus us, or self versus the multi dynamics of self, one's light version of self, one's dark version of self. And I think and honestly feel that the more and more we begin to view ourselves inside of our reflection as whole, we will be seeing that we are both all dependent on the sun, the moons, and the sun, the moon, the stars, and the planetary alignments. At times in one's reality, they will wholeheartedly be the good brother, as well as other timelines and pockets, they will be the bad brother, the good sister, the bad sister, the good mom, the bad child. So it's striking me in such remarkable terms of how we are being urged and quite honestly divinely nudged to take a more wider view of what we would consider quote unquote good or bad, or righteous or evil, because all depending on the angle and the prescription of the lens, it could quite easily function as both. And so here's the Coach Mad Hatter's horoscope. The tortoise in the story is likened to that of the Coach Mad Hatter. Seeing the results of your efforts clearly gets you closer to manifestation, yet you're wise enough to know that no shortcuts exist. Self-discipline blends superbly with self belief to assure success is now. This alone is worth its weight in gold. Golden enlightenment in terms of sacred alchemy is offered through the presence of quest mates. Having the support of those who are honestly and emotionally invested in the quality of familiar interests and intentions shall prove the poetic justice within your journey. Host plenty of immaculate conversations and songversations. So, with this, I am going to link in the show notes of this session a playlist that I recently patched together um, on my Spotify platform. And it's entitled Empress 2020 Summer Solstice Hang Suite. And the reason why I attached it to the into attached it to the Empress specifically is because for the last few readings over the last few weeks, the Empress card was continuing to show up. Now, what's interesting about this is that, and what I was going to say a few minutes ago, is that before I hit the record button, the record button for this session, I was shuffling the cards, and the Emperor and the Ten of Cups popped out. And I wondered if I was going to say anything about it in conjunction with this session, and so I suppose I am. It's meant to be, huh? Why? Because we are looking through a lens where you cannot or you ought not to view the feminine without the masculine or the masculine without the feminine. The two of them in complementary chemistry is what makes the wholeness of anything, if you think about it. Um, there are a lot of characteristics that are associated with feminine as well as masculine, and most often the co-joining of the polarities is what gives smooth operations and full circled maturity into play. That's the flipping of the switch. So being able to combine one's lightness with one's darkness and allowing these beautiful blends of reality to ensue, I think more and more immaculate conversations are going to begin to initiate and incubate. And I think the Ten of Cups is going to be the result of that. I believe the quality quintessentials of the Empress as well as the Emperor is what's going to flavor the rest of 2020. And so, yes, things are chaotic, but on a individual level, with regards to the way one processes its internal energies, can this chaos, this primal force, be catalytic enough that the transformation and the transmutations of present circumstances can bring forth this quality of a light enlightenment that hasn't been witnessed in a long time. So I'll close out this horoscope with a few highlights. Mainly Mars going home, returning into Aries, which is where this powerful passion and energy will dwell until the end of the year. And of course, I cannot make mention of that without making mention of where it is in conjunction with my birth chart. Why? Because it fascinates me. That's first and foremost, because it is so freaking fascinating to see the various multi-complex facets of my astrodynamics. And so my Mars is in Aries 6 degrees, as well as my Chiron is in Aries 9 degrees. And it makes for, and I will also say that my Mars is in my seventh house. So here's the deal. The seventh house for me, which, how can I say this? What's making it so significant for me as Mars returns home into Aries? And let me say this before I even unfold all of this, that my birth chart, uh, with the exception of my moon being with the moon being in the first house, my birth chart, I am literally all earth, wind, and fire. That's that's my primary makeup. So when I add emotions, then I become whole. And that has been the interesting journey of my Chiron and Aries, is how does the wounded healer provide this ultimate elixir? And so I've discovered that by adding authentic an authentic emotional component, I become whole. So simply put, I honestly could not survive in a non-emotional space. I cannot survive in relationships that stifle emotions, that are afraid to freely speak the emotions that are present. And it was strikingly I can't even think the words for it. How all of my reflections were always bound around an emotional component, especially where there was lack. Any situation or circumstance that I found myself where it was low in emotion, I didn't do so well. I don't do well in high logical spaces, highly scientific, engineering, technological. I don't do well in those spaces. And being able to understand that there is a side of me that will instantly flip on when I find myself in conjunction with people, places, or things that would prefer the emotions not be involved. And this is personal or professional. I blossom, I am nurtured, I am naturally nurtured in spaces where there is a steady stream of emotive components. The less the emotion, the more I am stifled. It seemed like non emotional spaces is my kryptonite. And it took me a long time to understand that. So, with my Chiron being in Aries, um, it's all about my star power, my self awareness. It's all about my personal growth. With my Mars being in my seventh house, it's all about my relationships, my equal partnerships, my joint ventures, my artistic abilities, and my diplomacy. With Aries being just hours away from returning into its home in Aries, I know that quite a bit of highlighting is going to begin to brighten itself as time moves towards the end of this year, all surrounding and linked into my primary relationships and my equal partnerships. It's going to have a lot to do with my emotional investments around my personal justice as well as my social justice, my professional justice. And so I'll end our session with this: the firm invitation for you to pull the details of your birth chart and spend some time with it. And I say spend some time with it and just explore it and allow your intuition to guide you through that scholarship. When I first pulled the details of my birth chart, I did have a soft reading around it just so that I could get used to the language in conjunction with my natal details. But after that, it has been a very slow process with me holding hands with my intuition and allowing it to guide me through certain pieces of information that would slowly connect certain dots. And I remained diligent with taking my notes and populating my journal with how I felt with regards to what it is that I was learning. And even though I am still quite a novice with research and development around my birth chart and how it is revealing certain parts of me, I'm comfortable with understanding that this is not a race. It's not a fast paced journey to know thyself. You have to be in it for the long haul. There is no magic combination to this. Wisdom does not mature in a day. And with all the things that we are panicking about, I personally would urge all the Coach Mad Hatters to find solace in the quiet times where yourself shows up to have a conversation with you. And that the things that it points you to, that you not ignore it. And that if you have at any point in your life showed up to go above and beyond for another human, that you think about that the emotional investments for the courtship with yourself. And maybe that came out a little debottled or debacled or fucking Like, just, yeah. So maybe let me say it like this. If you can put the above and beyond where you are sending okay, somebody you're interested in, someone you are romantically interested in, you sending them whatever kind of goodies you know will make them smile, or you are having conversations with them that fortifies their confidence, or whatever it is. Come on, especially if I am speaking to full grown humans, we understand what the dating or the courting cycles and seasons are all about. So I'm proposing that some of that emotional energy gets directed inward, and that you send yourself flowers, or you have those gentle yet fortifying conversations with you, that you tell yourself that you are the bomb.com, and that you defend those days when you are in your darkness just as lofty or hardy as you defend those days when you are in your lightness. And allow the combination of those beautiful blends to grant you some magically delicious moments with self. The courtship with self is honestly going to do for others above and beyond what you would be able to do for them had you not begun to invest quality time and attention that was directly directed, pointed inward. PowerPoint inward. So, with that said, my folks, I am going to end it here. Amazingly enough, right before I got on, I got all snuffly, like so I'm somewhat congested. Really, really weird because the entire day I was fine, and I usually do not have issues with my nasal. Yeah, whatever. So I'm going to rest my voice and maybe go into meditation a little bit to see if that will remedy some of this. So until next time, I wish you well.